All right. It's time for us to talk about J.K. Rowling. So, basically, J.K. Rowling decided that today she was gonna she was just gonna be going ham, as the kids say, and she decided to tweet, "I just how how did you type this out and press send without thinking I should maybe check my source for this because it might have been a fever dream." In response to, "The Nazis burnt books on trans healthcare and research. Why are you so desperate to uphold their ideology around gender?" And in doing so, turns out we are now seeing J.K. Rowling doing Holocaust denial. Remember when I talked about how once you are onboarded with one conspiracy theory, like eventually it like winds up that you get pulled into others and then you funnel around for a bit before you really go rock bottom where, oh, it's the Jews. So basically, for those of you who don't know, and I'm guessing a lot of people in my community do, but for those of you who don't know, during the Holocaust, gay men and trans women were often conflated. And uh, essentially, the Nazis referred to homosexuality as a social disease, another way of saying a social contagion. And essentially, if you were caught and convicted of being like a homosexual, you had a variety of fates, basically left up to the whim of a judge. And essentially, you either got shipped to the front lines of World War II to die in the meat grinder, or you got sent for re-education, conversion therapy, in some kind of like camp, conversion therapy camp, from which you would be expected to emerge cured of your homosexuality. But if you were a reoffender, then you would either be paired up with a high-ranking Nazi member for corrective rape rituals, or you would be sent to the concentration camps to die. This is where the pink triangle came from. This is why the pink triangle is important to queer people in general. Because again, back in that time, there was an awful lot of conflation of gay men and trans women. And the fate of corrective rape was unsurprisingly perhaps more common for lesbians or trans men. And during the Holocaust, while not relatively small to the population of the concentration camps, which predominantly Jewish people and people with disabilities, along with like Romani and such, but there were gay people and trans people in the camps themselves. But a lot of the toll wound up being held in these conversion therapy camps, the corrective rape programs. And also following World War II, it was still considered a crime to be gay. So oftentimes the gay men that were in the concentration camps would be sent to prison after being freed from the concentration camps. This was a practice that Germany formally apologized for not too long ago. Because it was, in fact, until like maybe the last 20 years or so, it was considered an open question about whether or not gay people were targeted during the Holocaust. Because, for obvious reasons, due to the bigotry of the times, gay people, no one really cared if people abused them, you know? And, yeah. So, all of that to say that also, when you had the moral panic that fueled the rise of the Nazi Party, one of the prongs of that moral outrage was centered on the Institute for of Sexology in Berlin. Now, the Institute of Sexology was one of the most cutting-edge institutions in the world, arguably the cutting-edge institution in the world, actually doing research on gay and trans people. This was the place that developed the first trans surgeries. This is the one that really helped, mainline the process of hormone replacement therapy in the wider, medical texts. And on top of that, it was the only place that was able to issue identity cards for people who identified as transgender. This was such a new thing that often it was referred to as a transvestite license. Essentially, you could get official documentation recognized by the Weimar Republic that would, be like, you're essentially a trans person, but you are to be treated as a woman or a man. And again, the head of the Institute for Sexology was Magnus Hirschfeld, who was, thankfully, by the time the book burnings at the Institute of Sexology, because they were attacked by the Nazis, and all of the research material, all of the books about gay people, and again, it was a cutting-edge institution regarding gay and trans people, all of that was burned. And this is, oddly enough, World War II happened before the advent of the internet, and it turns out all of that information was irreplaceable. It was irreplaceable research that was not replicated elsewhere in the world. This was decades of accumulated knowledge and understanding, unusually concentrated into one place. For a lot of academic texts, you'd find, copies in other universities, but there were no other universities really working on these topics at the time. And so the images you have of Nazi book burnings, most of them, the most common ones, are book burnings outside the Institute of Sexology, being done by the Nazi Party to curb the spread of the social contagion. So J.K. Rowling went on Twitter today and posted this, and basically immediately started getting bodied by folks. Again, like, the Smithsonian ran a piece last year about how the Nazis targeted trans people specifically. And it's actually, this piece is actually really interesting. Let me pull it up here. I highly recommend it as a read. I'm actually going to post it in chat too. Hello, Nindreen. And last year, a German court acknowledged the possibility that trans people were persecuted by the Nazis. Because of course they were. They were visually gender non-conforming individuals. They would have all been targeted by the Nazis. Of course. These were people known at the cabarets. These were people known for, like, frequenting gay bars. Like, of course, they would have been targeted. And in case any of you are like, well, they didn't know what trans people were, I'm going to direct you to this particular portion right here. The author of a 1938 book on, quote, the problem of transvestitism, wrote that before Hitler was in power, there was not much that could be done about transgender people, but that now, in Nazi Germany, they could be put in concentration camps or subjected to forced castration, which was, I left that off of the list earlier. That was another possibility if you were caught being gay. That was good, he believed, because the asocial mindset of trans people and their supposedly frequent criminal activity justifies draconian measures by the state. So, like, even at the time, there were people effectively going out and saying, well, you know, we need to clamp down on these trans people. Effectively no different than what the Republican Party says about trans people. You know, if you get a Republican off of a hot mic, they'll tell you they want every trans person to be denied the ability to transition. And also, keep in mind that when a Nazi says that trans people have an asocial mindset, what they mean is that they have been infected by the social disease of, like, homosexuality and queerness. Here's another excerpt here. Simon was a brave person. I first came across her police file when I was researching trans people at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. The Essen police knew Simon as the sassy proprietor of an underground club where LGBTQ people gathered. In the mid-1930s, she was hauled into court for criticizing the Nazi regime. By then, the Gestapo had had enough of her. Simon was a danger to the youth, a Gestapo officer wrote. Sending her to a concentration camp was, quote, absolutely necessary. So, again, we know that this happened. We know that this happened beyond any shadow of a doubt, right? And J.K. Rowling just went into the comments. Neither of your articles support the contention that trans people were the first victims of the Nazis, or that all research on trans healthcare was burned in 1930s Germany. You're engaging in lying, Alejandra. But, like, O.S. Crane.
Boom. BWA Peepo hug.
Thank you for being the first person to support stream today. And as I said... Oh my god. All right.
Jack.
Hello, Nindreen. So that is a lot of arm curls. My god, thank you so goddamn much, Nindreen. So that I'm bad at math, chat. I'm really bad at math. Is that 15? Yes, that is 15. 16 with OS Crane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, okay. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Whew. Yeah, I gotta get swole. Thank you for helping me to get swole, chat. And also, huge thank you to Nindreen with the $75 dono. Bringing some much-needed BWA in the chat. OS Crane and Nindreen, first people to support stream today. Let's go. Whew. Thank you. Whew. So basically, folks, J.K. Rowling just kept responding to people. They did, though. Google Magnus Hirschfield. I know all about Hirschfield. Are you sure you want to make him a poster boy for trans medicine? The man who believed in sterilization of the unfit. I've got bad news for you guys. I've got bad news for Joanne. Can you believe it? We made Isaac Newton the poster boy for physics, and it turns out he believed in alchemy and drinking mercury. Oh no, it turns out we made Darwin the poster boy for evolution, and he believed that, like, literally non-white people were subhuman aberrations of white people. Oh no, it turns out people can be wrong about a bunch of things and correct on one thing, and it turns out Magnus Hirschfield correct on trans people, wrong when it came to eugenics. And unfortunately, eugenics was a pretty widely held belief. And frankly, a lot of the processes that eugenics spawned still exist in our modern day society. We just call them other things. A good example of this is IQ. IQ is based in eugenics, and we shouldn't use it anymore, but we continue to use it because a lot of our society was influenced by scientists who also happened to be eugenicists. Whew!
Okay, so 2 subs. You are all good subs here at the RBJ crew. 1 curl.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did I think I committed to every sub doing an arm curl. Did I misremember? Did I miscount? Do I actually have like 50 more left? Okay, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. One sub, one curl. Okay. I was at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 7, 8, 9, 30. Okay. Gonna be buff? Okay. Wait, okay, so I'm bad at math. OS Crane gifted 1 sub. $75 is 15. And then 5 more subs. 5 more, so 21? I'm gonna say I've done 21. And from here on out, it's 1 sub or the financial equivalent. 70, 25.
Also 12,
All right, another
19,
5.
32,
Another 5.
48,
Okay.
16 HAHAHAHAHA.
Getting swole, baby. 1, 2, 33, 34, 35. Whew. Working up a sweat. Yeah, Mithril Mist, that's a great example. Dr. Kellogg, right about nutritional breakfast cereals, wrong about cornflakes being a cure for masturbation. Very wrong about that, it turns out. That was a weird flex. Working on it. Working on it. Why would you want to cure masturbation? Kellogg was weird that way. Nindreen, thank you so much for the $25 dono. And chat, if you enjoy muscle content, also thank Nindreen. But here we go. Oh, here. I need to show you guys this. View quote tweets. Here we go. If only there was video and photo evidence of it. You can literally look up video of them doing the book burning outside of the Institute for Sexology. This is a video of it happening, guys.
Meine Kommilitonen, deutsche Männer und Frauen.
And oh, so many different citations of the event. That's crazy. That's crazy, dog. God. She's explicitly pandering to Nazis and she knows what she's doing. Well, yeah, no, that's the thing. That's the point I'm trying to get at here. When we talk about the danger of like conspiracy theories, it's that over time their communities leech into and leak into one another. So like the the flat earth theory begins to overlap with the Great Replacement theory, which begins to overlap with Holocaust denialism and 9/11 trutherism, and at the very bottom of it always is that there is a secret cabal of either woke elites, or also they will generally just default to calling them the Jews or them in parentheses. This this just continues, and it continues until you have combined all of your conspiracy theories into one singularity. I think a really good example of this is Alex Jones. Alex Jones is like one of the people who arrived first in the age of social media at the conspiracy singularity. It used to just be that weird guy down by your hardware store, and now it's Alex Jones with his audience of like millions. And it's honestly terrifying. It's deeply interesting, but it's also very terrifying to see like some of the wealthiest, most powerful people in the world, like J.K. Rowling and Elon Musk, falling into this rabbit hole, And like they're absolutely falling into it. Here's Ben Shapiro responding to Elon Musk saying gender reassignment surgery doubles risk of suicide for men, which, yeah. If you're doing gender reassignment surgery on a cis man, it will have a negative impact on their psychology. But if it's a trans woman, not so much. Mostly positive. And Ben Shapiro, wow, turns out that cutting off your dick and balls is a bad idea. But thankfully, the Biden administration knows better and will continue to promote castration to minors, despite the fact that no minor can go and get castrated. You can't go and get castrated as an underage individual. You know, like, again, this is like fear mongering about things that don't happen. This is in a lot of ways the fundamental like guiding mythology of the Republican moment. And it doesn't matter that it's not true. You know, to the people in power, to Ben Shapiro, it doesn't matter that that's not true. What matters is that he is relaying this to an audience that will feel that it's true. Well, and the thing is, Mithril flat earthers to Great Replacement Theory seems like a bit of a leap, but then you start looking into, oh, well, the government's lying to you about the ice wall that surrounds the flat earth. Why would the government be lying to you? Well, because they're controlled by elite interests. Which elite interests? Well, you know, those ones that are, you know, bringing in all of those black and brown people to replace white people. Wait, but who are they? Oh, well, you know, they're you know, the globalist elite. Okay, but who are they? Well, they're, you know, the Jews. You know, like that's how it goes. You know, that is the pipeline down into the conspiracy singularity. Because then you have, like, you know, a concrete minority that you can otherize at the very bottom of all of it. It is the root of all evil. And then you get on board with basically any plan to get rid of that root, get rid of that primordial perceived evil. And that's all you need, you know? And I'm just going to throw it out there. Ben Shapiro, in the interest of self-preservation, you should probably, like, tone down your conspiratorial rhetoric. Because these people will eat you alive. And feel good about it. They think you're the bad guy for being Jewish. I mean, he might not care right now. He'll certainly care when these conspiracy theorists win power and are suddenly, like, at his doorstep. Because again, we've already seen these signs of schism within the Republican Party. You know, we have Candace Owens aligning herself against Ben Shapiro. We have, you know, Tucker Carlson going out of his way to pick a fight with Ben Shapiro, and it's because he's Jewish. You know? So, I don't know, like, I just find it interesting. And of course he'll like leave or whatever if he gets wind that, like, something bad is coming his way, but, like, something bad is coming out of all of this. So I was both anti-racist and was fiercely arrogant as a youth, so I was a prime target for conspiracy because I was a jackass kid, but the blatant racism kicked me out of it. If I didn't have that grounding force, I'm scared to think how I could have ended up. Yeah, exactly. You know? There's something really powerful to feeling like you have that secret info. Does Ben Shapiro believe he's immune to that or something? It baffles me. He honestly, I genuinely, I think that there are conservatives who do not realize the fire that they're playing with. You know, they don't believe that it could honestly happen. They believe, like, if Donald Trump gets elected, you know, it'll be fine for them because they're loyalists. They believe in the cult of personality, that they will be okay at the end of the day. They believe, like, money and prestige and name recognition will save them against a fascist authoritarian. And it won't. All right. It's time. I want to take a look at this. But apparently Jordan B. Peterson spoke in front of Congress, and we're gonna watch the video he put out, um, which is just I spoke before the U.S. House Judiciary Committee. So here we go. Also, again, if you're enjoying the content, remember hit the follow button on Twitch. We need 31 follows on Twitch in order to hit 10K. Let's do it. And also, again, consider dropping those subs, those sweet, sweet subs and donos, since we're almost at 2 hours. And with that, let's go.
Subcommittee will come to order without objection. Big government was colluding with big tech to censor Americans. That's the first thing we learned. But now it's big government colluding with big banks and big business to spy on everything Americans buy, every place they go, everything they do.
Oh, cool. So you're gonna ban websites collecting our data and selling them to data brokers? You're gonna do that, right? That's what this is about? Oh, no, it's about wokeness. Oh.
Big government wants your financial data because it's full of sensitive information about you. Our investigation started when an FBI whistleblower, George Hill, came forward and talked to the committee. Mr. Hill was supervisory intelligence analyst at the FBI up in the Boston field office, told the committee that the FBI got information from Bank of America. Specifically, it received a list of any customer who made purchases in the Washington, D.C. area January 5th through 7th, 2021. The whistleblower's supervisor, special agent in charge of the Boston field office, Mr. Bonavolanta, corroborated Mr. Hill's testimony when he spoke to the committee. And so did Steve Jensen, the FBI's Domestic Terrorism Operations Section Chief. But it wasn't just purchase data around a specific date that the FBI got from Bank of America. That was actually also overlaid with any firearm purchase at any time. And how did the FBI get this information? They asked for it. In fact, you can see on the display on the screen here the email that was sent. The FBI told Bank of America, to recap our morning call, we are prepared to action immediately the following threshold: customers confirmed as transacting business in Washington, D.C. between these specific dates. So if you're in Washington, D.C., visiting your kids, maybe visiting your aunt, or maybe just a friend, the FBI wanted to know about every single purchase you made.
Oh, you mean the FBI, the organization investigating the attempted insurrection against the United States government? You mean, shock of all shocks, they wanted to know if weapons dealers in the D.C. area were selling weapons to people who went to January 6th? That's crazy. And you could argue maybe they should have had to get a warrant first, and sure. But generally speaking, if you just hand over the data, if you're like a major corporation, you just hand over the data, like they're not gonna trouble you, you know?
And if you're a gun owner, look out, you're going to the top of the list. For simply exercising your Second Amendment right, you're on the FBI's target list. And never forget, the federal government got this information.
Well, for exercising your Second Amendment right, not to just buy a gun, but to buy a gun in a specific set of time constraints around October 6th, January 6th.
Without any process, no warrant, and frankly, no notification. The bank didn't tell the customer that we're handing this information over to the FBI, the most powerful law enforcement agency in the world. Now, these FBI agents, Mr. Hill, Mr. Bonavolanta, Mr. Jensen.
I think you're missing the request. This was everyone who purchased anything using Bank of America for those 2 days, then cross-referenced against historical gun ownership. So if you ever bought a gun and then bought a croissant in DC on January 6th or 5th, you were on the list. Gotcha. But I mean, I do have to wonder, how big of an issue was that? You know, like, Was the FBI turning up at, like, someone's house for buying a croissant in DC? And also owning a gun if there was no evidence they participated in January 6th? I don't think so. Like, I feel like we would have heard that story by now, you know? If there was a guy in DC who happened to buy, like, a croissant and also own a gun, like, Republicans would hold that person up as, like, the second coming of Christ. They were probably using it to ID people in the videos. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure, that's what they were doing. But, like, he's making it sound like they're being targeted just for buying guns. How unfair. Very knifey duck. Thank you for gifting with Otro a tier 1 sub. There we go. Getting stronger, baby.
They all said this was wrong and, in fact, sent the information back to FBI headquarters in D.C. So that's how our investigation began. But since then, and we continue to investigate, but since then, we've learned that the financial surveillance was broader and there was actually a specific objective. The federal government is building profiles on the American people. And the profile isn't based on criminal conduct, it's based on political beliefs. And if you got the wrong...
I don't believe that, Jim Jordan. I believe that they have collected identifying information for people who participated in January 6th, absolutely. I don't think they're making dossiers on every Republican in America. Oh yeah, no. This is all... One thing you guys have to understand about, like, judiciary committees and stuff like that, often they have real power, but if you're looking at a Republican, generally speaking, they're running their committees as dog and pony shows. They're PR tanks, essentially. Jim Jordan here is basically fear-mongering to the press and the public, you know, to hopefully get some sound bites onto Fox News about to make the public think, oh, they're coming for the guns. They're coming for the guns. And that's all he has to do. You know, that's all he has to do. He doesn't have to show up after this on Fox News. He can just say this, knowing it's going to get clipped.
Political beliefs, well, you're potentially a domestic violent extremist. We now introduce today's witnesses. Dr. Jordan Peterson is a psychologist, author, and professor emeritus at the University of Toronto.
Oh, is he? Is he? Didn't he get his license revoked? Can't he not call himself a psychologist anymore? Okay. So he hasn't lost his license yet, but basically the board that issues the psychology licenses said he had to come in and get more training, and he hasn't done that, and he's trying to fight the stipulation of being trained in court. So, yeah. Still technically a psychologist. No more tick for you Americans. You know, I think it remains to be seen if that's going to pass in the Senate. It passed one chamber of Congress, not both.
Previously taught at Harvard University and McGill University. He has published more than 100 scientific papers, hosts a popular podcast, hosts public lectures across the United States, Canada, Australia, and Europe, and offers online programs to help consumers better understand their personalities and themselves. Dr. Peterson has been targeted for his views on the importance of free speech and traditional values, and has warned of the dangers of debanking political opponents, as he has seen in Canada. We'll begin by swearing you in. Would you please rise and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God? Let the record show that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. Thank you. And we will start with Dr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson, you're recognized for 5 minutes. And thank you again for being here.
As well, I would.
Okay, so he testifies for 8 minutes and then is cross-examined. Interesting.
Like to start by expressing my appreciation for the privilege awarded to me to testify here today. It really is an honor to be asked to do so. I'm not here to talk about January 6th or about
That's right. He's here to talk about George Orwell.
any particular threat, insurrection, or protest, political or ideological, real or imaginary. I'm here to talk about the already extant and expanding collusion of government and corporation in restricting the individual freedom and autonomy upon which the productive, generous, and stable psyche, economy, and state are themselves necessarily founded. I'll begin my comments, therefore, in the most general terms to shed light on the mounting problem. There are now 700 million CCTVs in China under the rule of the Communist Party.
Oh no, oh no. Curses! Convenience store security cameras? Is he literally like upset about security cameras? If so, I got bad news for him. Oh, weird. We have over 70 million in the United States installed. Let me take a look here. That's not even all of them. I think this is just in residential areas. Yeah, we've been increasing how many security cameras are in the United States by like 20% every year. Since their invention. But, you know, 700 in China, that's very scary. Ignore the fact that we're adding tens of millions of security cameras in the United States every year. We're different. We're just built different, okay?
The system to which those electronic eyes are attached is the most complete state apparatus of surveillance yet imagined, with the ability not only to recognize faces at a distance, but gait itself when facial features are hidden or obscured. Such capability can and will soon be augmented to the point where the movement of eyes themselves, monitored by high-resolution and intelligent cameras, will soon be sufficient to identify any aware and active party. The demented, naive, and prideful engineers who so enthusiastically helped build this system call it Skynet, after the rogue and all-seeing technology that took such a dreadfully wrong turn in the famous science fiction movie Terminator series, featuring artificially intelligent robot intelligences hell-bent
Are you... Come on, man. Come on. I'm so honored to be called in front of Congress today. Anyway, I'm going to talk about Terminator 2. Do you remember, anyone here remember Terminator 2? It was a pretty cool movie. Remember that part where a bomb explodes and there's the skeletons on the fence? That was pretty cool. Anyway, I think that's happening right now. This is so stupid.
On protecting themselves by destroying humanity. The name also references a well-known Chinese phrase describing the reach of the divine itself. The net of heaven is vast, yet it misses nothing, which aptly describes the capabilities of the new state apparatus. The system is integrated with the so-called Chinese social credit system, which awards its involuntary participants with a score indicating their compliance with the...
Oh, what's that? We have roughly the same amount and have only been going up since 2019. Oh, that's crazy. That's wild. If only people had done news reports about this.
The dictates of the Chinese Communist Party, allowing for...
Per capita, the United States and China have roughly the same amount of cameras.
Full control over access to everything they possess electronically. Most ominously, their savings and their access to travel. Certainly, all modern means of travel, but increasingly as the electronic gates come up, even by walking. If you're Chinese or a visitor, your access to the world can be reduced to 0 if your social credit score falls beyond an arbitrary minimum. This...
Damn, if only the United States, you know, good thing here in the United States we have total and complete freedom. No one in the United States would allow their lives to be controlled by a practically arbitrary and unknowable algorithm that would assign some kind of score to their ability to do things like get loans and start businesses or buy houses. Nope, America would never put up with anything like that.
Allows you purposefully to be shut out of all activities
Credit
that
score.
can be virtualized. And in a rapidly virtualizing world, this increasingly means all activities: driving, shopping, working, eating.
Oh God! Oh God! Likings. I didn't remember. They called the guy famous for falling for pornography. He thought pornography was like a thing that the CCP was doing. He thought that China was strapping young men down and then milking them for sperm. He saw a pornography clip and thought to himself, that's what they're doing in China. That's what they're doing over there. And they call him in front of Congress to talk about this? Are you kidding me, dude? Are you kidding me right now? Jordan Peterson watching pornography is just like, that's true. That's real life. That's real life right there. Wow, this lady must really need her pipes fixed. Oh wow, that lady over there, she thinks pizza's really yummy. Listen to her joyous grunts from that pizza. That's crazy.
Finding shelter, even fraternizing with friends and family, as merely being in the presence of someone with a low social credit score means that your own score can be lowered. This has also opened up the opportunity for the government to extract slave-like labor from its citizens, so burdened as the...
Yeah. There would never be modern slavery in the United States. We would never allow that. Even if it were for, I don't know, like the poor or people in prisons No, we would never exploit people for slave labor or with slave wages. We would never do that. We would never outsource our slavery to other countries where it can be practiced with impunity. No, sir, we would never do that. Oh, wait, we did all of those things.
Donation of free work to the state still constitute one means by which erring Chinese men and women can increase their
slave
score
wages,
and remain
yes.
part of human society. This is precisely the payment system most desired by the most tyrannical, not the work for me and benefit thereby that constitutes the contractual arrangement undertaken by free and sovereign citizens, but the work for me and I will live.
Yes, free and sovereign citizens, but we're not free from the threat of poverty. We're not free from the threat of abuse from our bosses, free from abuse of the capitalist system. Again, in America, you either work or you die, and if you can't find a job, then you suffer, and then you die. You know, like that's how that works. If you can't find the job, you can't get work, you can't make enough to make ends meet and have a place to live, tough nuts. I guess it's time to die. Like that's their argument. That's the answer Jordan Peterson has here.
Lift the deprivation I imposed that has always been the leitmotif of the slaver. Why is any of this relevant to people in the West?
The deprivation I impose. Jordan, what is homelessness and like hunger and thirst in the United States, if not a deprivation imposed by the wealthiest people among us? We could end all of these things, and yet we choose not to in order to privilege the wealthiest among us.
Well, because the technology that the Chinese Communist Party employs is an extension of Western technology. Because we already fell prey to the terrible temptation of lockdown employed.
Yeah. China would never have that many security cameras if not for our Western technology. They never would have been. Oh, wait, they've had security cameras since like the 60s? Oh, okay.
By that state in the face of hypothetical crisis once and in the very recent past, because we're walking step by step in the same direction, partly because of the hypothetical convenience of universal and automatic recognition of identity, and partly because any problem whatsoever that now confronts us can easily be used to justify the increasing reach of the security and nanny state. It is said that Stone Age people, first confronted with cameras and their resultant photographs by modern anthropologists, objected to having their images captured as they feared the captivity of their souls. It turns out that such fear was prescient. The images that we leave behind while navigating virtual space are such close.
Yes. You see, the ancient belief of a camera stealing your soul is now validated by all the security cameras that are stealing our digital souls. Your online information is actually quite analogous to your soul, you know, and I think that, frankly, the Chinese Communist Party is trying to tell people that they own their soul now. And frankly, we need to start engaging in more spiritual warfare. Okay? We need to start giving the kids more tackle boxes and taking away the Xboxes, all right?
Duplicates of our actual selves, that the capture of our essence is at this point all but guaranteed.
That's right. I was walking by a security camera the other day, and it sniffed me, and I felt lessened by it. I didn't even know that security cameras could sniff.
I feel like Jordan Peterson would play Watch Dogs once, and for the rest of his life be worried his car would explode from Chinese hackers.
Oh God, I forgot about Watch Dogs. Yeah, no, that is exactly. He like Jordan Peterson would play Watch Dogs and just be like, "This is the coming of the new generation. This is a game in which the main protagonist is attempting to retain his humanity by taking down a system of exploitation under which souls are being siphoned off. The data of the population is being brought to the fore. You see, when we talk about data collection, what is data? What do we mean by data? Well, very simply, data are points. They are points of information. And when you have enough of these points of information, it makes up a greater whole. It's much like the artists would do with a pointillism sketch. And if you have enough points of data, you can construct effectively a synthetic human soul. And thus, I rest my argument. The Chinese Communist Party is seizing our souls. The only way we can fight this is with spirit power. I am asking all of you, the American people, to lend me your strength. Starts channeling a spirit bomb.
We all now have our doppelgangers. We all live so much in the virtual world in consequence of our purchasing habits and modes of electronically mediated
That was way too accurate.
communication
I'm sorry.
that our very selves have become reducible to a frightening degree to data, the modern equivalent of our footprint, with the same data making up an image of our identity, an identity which can be and is increasingly bought and sold by the invisible corporate brokers that still mostly use it to sell us what we so desperately.
And much like the erstwhile Sodom and Gomorrah, online brokerages are buying and selling our very corporeal essences. You see, these shadowy figures are akin to Satan himself, coming towards us with malintent in order to reduce us to commodities, much like the slavers did in Africa. And when you really think about it, we're all now being subject to a different kind of global slave trade. It's merely a slave trade of our very souls. So when you think about it, we are all having our souls trafficked. And in a way, that's worse than any other kind of slavery to have ever existed. And then he begins talking about how, like, white people are truly oppressed. He goes into an hour-long tangent about the Dragon of Chaos oppressing the whites. God. And eventually, your data winds up in a Chinese milking facility. And they use your soul data to siphon the very real biological essence out of a young man strapped to a machine. You have no idea what it's like to know that your data has been used to milk some poor man's genitals. I weep about it every night. All right, sorry.
And carelessly and conveniently want, but can also be used to track, monitor, and punish everything we do and say. Behavioral scientists facilitate this process with their reprehensible nudging, the practice of pushing people.
Oh, also, I think I missed a arm curl. One. There we go. Cracked my nail. Gotta go fix that. Be right back.
people in a given ideologically determined direction by manipulating invisible incentives behind the scene. Corporations track purchasing decisions, developing algorithms that with increasing accuracy track our patterns of attention and action, allowing for the prediction of what might next be most enticing.
In a way, the CCP has become like Geppetto from the children's fairy tale Pinocchio. You see, the CCP, in a way, has created a facsimile of human life using these points of data, and is now manipulating, making it dance for our amusement. And so much like Pinocchio, we must cut our strings, brothers and sisters. Aren't you referencing him tweeting a BDSM vid? I am, yes.
Doing so not only to offer us what we want, but to determine and shape what we need.
Why is Peterson here speaking? He's here in his professional capacity as a psychologist to talk about online censorship.
Governments can and are colluding with these corporate agents to develop a picture not only of our actions, but of our thoughts and words, so that deviation from the desired end can be mapped.
Oh yeah, the bit about when I was doing a bit about him, about a Chinese milking facility, Jordan Peterson unironically saw like a segment of a BDSM porn video and thought that that was actually something that the CCP was doing, and tweeted it out saying, look at what they're doing over in China to these poor defenseless men. And it was just like a bunch of men like strapped down with like machines like milking their dicks, essentially. And he a lot of people then pointed out that it was actually pornography.
Rewarded and punished. The development of a digital identity and currency is nothing more than the likely end consequence of such inclinations, and the combination of both can and will facilitate the development of a surveillance state, the scope of which optimistic pessimists of totalitarianism such as George Orwell could scarcely imagine. The new AI systems, which are so rapidly emerging, do nothing but increase this danger, providing for the possibility of a super surveillance whose scope exceeds anything that mere unaugmented humans could imagine, while also making it certain that even the perceptions that in the real world shape our attitudes, conduct, and personality can be manipulated to the degree that we will not even be able to see a reality outside which that has been constructed by the superstate. The ultimate fascist collusion between gigantic self-interested corporations and paranoid security-obsessed anti-human governments. We're already selling our souls to the superstate for the purposes of immediate gratification, while being enticed to do so by
Mr. Chairman, could the witness be asked to summarize, please?
Well, when you think about it, a summary is merely a distillation of various points. It is, in fact, a soul. It is, in fact, a soul, you understand. So when you're asking me to summarize, you're asking me to present to you my very soul. And I think that that is an infringement on my rights as a human, as a man. He looks very offended at being asked to summarize and be brief with his points. It's so fucking funny. Welcome, Raiders. Hello, Tipster. Thank you very much for the raid. Welcome, Tippies. This is awkward. Come on in. We're going over Jordan Peterson's appearance in Congress. And I'm having a good time with it. I'm not really supplying you with a ton of deep hitting political points. I am just having a good time dunking on Jordan Peterson. Also, Ducking Creepers, thank you for hitting the follow button. We now just need 30 more follows to hit 10,000 follows on Twitch. Help me make it happen, guys. Help me make it happen if you haven't yet. No, he is very upset at being asked to summarize. Like, he's outside of academia. Like, generally speaking, no one can ask him to do anything. Also, for the Raiders just coming in, I am doing one arm curl for every gifted sub or $5 dono. So if you would like to make me swole, you have the opportunity to do it today. Let's go. Spent the past half hour LARPing as JBP, and you guys love it. I think, given the reaction.
And do I have my 5 minutes or do I not?
Yeah.
You've gone over. Does that mean that I have my full 5 minutes? Even though I've been talking at this point? Like, he started at 4 minutes in. We're currently at 12 minutes. So, he's currently been talking for 8 minutes. And he's upset that, do I have my 5 minutes or not? Huh? Like, come on. You've already talked for more than 5 minutes, guy. You have no concept of time. And I know that I don't have the high ground to tell anybody that, given how long-winded I can be, but still, bro, you're in front of Congress. Keep it tight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can certainly.
Hey,
The
Zaddy.
witness could summarize. we're always a little lenient with the time. If you
Hey,
could
the Raider
summarize.
Gaming.
10 more seconds?
Sure.
With increasing ability to monitor not only the actual attention patterns and behaviors of its citizens, but to predict those that are most likely, the persecution of even potential crime becomes ever more likely.
Here's the thing, right? Like, his argument here is that, and I guess the reason he's here is that he understands psychology, and so presumably he's there to talk about, like, how the Chinese government is engaging in psychological warfare against its people by having so many state-sanctioned, like, security cameras. But I need to point out, and this is as of 2018, so it might be a bit out of date, but or 2019 rather. In China, there are 4.1 cameras for every one person. In the United States, there are 4.6 cameras for every person. We do not have the high ground here to throw rocks at China's surveillance state, okay?
If you have nothing to hide, you will have nothing to fear, will be the slogan commandeered by those most likely to turn to surveillance.
Yeah, nope, that is the that's the argument. Boy howdy, JBP. Should have been here back in 2001, right after September 11th, because we heard that for like every season of Jack Bauer. Like the 24 show, which was about like a special agent basically having carte blanche to like torture like black and brown people. He understands psychology. No, he doesn't. But like, you know, ostensibly that would be the justification for why he's here, right?
To protect and control. What was the famous Soviet totalitarian joke attributed to Lavrenti Beria, head of the secret police? Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Those words were true enough in the time of Stalin's KGB, and the police were secret enough then as well. But that's nothing compared to what we can and likely will produce now. A police so secret that we will not even...
As you can see, I have secretly turned 10 seconds into an eternity. Ha 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 ha. You might think to yourself that I've been actually talking for an entire minute, but that's just because I'm in the first nanosecond of my 10 seconds. Time, as Einstein himself pointed out, is relative.
be able to detect their comprehensive and subtle activity, monitoring crime so pervasive that everyone under the dictates of the system will have something to hide
Regular
and
order,
much to
Mr.
fear.
Chairman.
We'll now proceed under the 5-minute rule with questions. Dr. Peterson, do you think they're just going to stop with conservatives? I mean, my history tells us that the cancel culture mob.
Oh yeah, I forgot. The framing of this is that Jim Jordan has been trying to say that anyone who has bought a gun is now going to be investigated in order to fearmonger to his base that Democrats are coming for your guns. They're coming for your guns. They're coming for your guns. And so now he's asking questions to try and get Jordan Peterson to, like, connect all of that waffle about China's surveillance state to the United States and the point that Jim Jordan was trying to make.
The surveillance state, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't just, they never are satisfied with just certain people. It always expands. And I'll give you an example. A few years ago, Senator Feinstein, iconic Democrat senator from the great state of California, the folks...
Yeah, no. Everything that Jordan Peterson said had nothing to do with the basic reason that they're here, which was about like the FBI investigating, getting information on and investigating people involved or potentially involved in January 6th. Like that was the first question, and instead he talked about China for 10 minutes.
In San Francisco renamed the Dianne Feinstein Elementary School. They took her name off the school because they found that she said something like 40 years ago that the cancel culture mob didn't like. So even a liberal Democrat senator wasn't good enough for the mob. They came.
Dang, was it because she defended the is it because she defended the Confederate flag? Because that's what she did, and it turns out when a school full of black kids and brown kids learns that the school is named after someone who defended the Confederacy, turns out they want to change the name of the school really badly.
Came after her too, and this is the thing that scares me. We've invited probably more Democrat witnesses in front of this committee than any other committee, because we invite Democrats to come in and say we respect the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, respect the Constitution. My concern is it never just stops with certain people. It always goes further. Do you agree with that?
Well, the reason I prefaced my remarks with an insistence on nonpartisanship is because the danger posed by this increasing ability of governments and large corporations to collude threatens everyone's freedom equally. And it could well be that at the moment, and this is, I think, the case the Republicans here are trying to make, is that the people who are in the sights of that collusion tend to have more conservative leanings, but that will shift in a moment whenever the political tides shift. And we're concentrating in this hearing a fair bit on the specific events of January 6th, a very partisan...
Are we? Because you didn't talk about it at all.
An issue that produces a very intense partisan divide, but we're not addressing the fundamental issue here directly, which is that our new technology enables a mode of surveillance that's so intense and all-pervading that no one will escape its purview regardless of their political views.
Dr. Peterson, why are you such a Luddite? Why don't you embrace artificial intelligence and facial recognition and massive computer surveillance and cameras on every street corner so that we could all be safer?
Well, because there's tremendous danger in too much security. If the emerging collusion between government and corporation, gigantic corporation, continues in the manner that it is continuing, there won't be anything that you do that can't be used against you and will be used against you in very short order. And the concerns that are expressed here about the local consequences of that, let's say with regards to January 6th, seem to me to fail to take into account the much broader threat that lurks underneath that everyone should be attending to. We're in danger of eliminating the private sphere entirely.
Yep, that's right, folks. That's right, folks. Soon you'll have cameras in your home. They'll just come right in. They'll just come right in, folks. They'll come right in and they'll put the soul suckers, which is what they'll call them by the time they're in your home. They'll just straight up call them the soul suckers. And every day you'll have your soul siphoned away when you wake up. All of the data points will be siphoned to a government computer. When you masturbate, that will be siphoned into a government computer. Just like that video from China that I shared on social media with all of my followers. All of my millions of followers, you all saw the data being sucked right out of those young men. And pretty soon there will be a machine like it in every home in America. And there will be nothing you can do as your soul is sucked out of your body and stored in the government's gigantic cryo vaults. This is the power of science and the folly of man.
That's already happening in places around the world, particularly in China, which is why I made reference to that. That technology is at hand. And it appears as though both giant governments and giant corporations are utilizing it in every way that they can manage. And it's often motivated by the claim that that's forestalling an immediate proximal threat. Right?
That's right. It's me, Jordan P. Peterson, here to tell you that we need to abolish security cameras. Go out into your neighborhood, smash the cameras, make sure they cannot see you, wear masks. It's me, Jordan P. Peterson. Celebrate the liberation of your souls.
Well, that's a short-term justification for engaging in a tremendous long-term danger. And it should be perceived as dangerous to those on the left who are politically committed, because it will be the politically committed who are first identified by such systems.
Is it true that you have a PhD?
Yes.
Well, then why did Canada decide that you needed more education? Can you tell us about that?
Well,
oh God, this guy thinks he's so clever.
Canada decide that you needed more education. Can you tell us about that?
Look at how he thinks he's so slick, dude. He thinks he's so slick. Look at that smirk. Oh my God, politicians are oily as fuck. God.
well, one reason, the entire transcript of an interview that I did with Joe Rogan was submitted as evidence with regards to the unacceptability of my views.
Well, you see, people wanted to judge me on the basis of the things that I do and the words that I say. And it turns out that they did not like the things I said on Joe Rogan's podcast. And they took that data, my soul. They took it from me. So they're asking me if I'm back. Yeah, I think I'm back.
What I was doing primarily in that interview that was criticized was questioning the validity of the economic models of economic collapse that were stacked upon the unstable models detailing out climate change 100 years into the future. That was deemed in Canada sufficient to proceed with complaints against me with regards to my professional competence to serve as a licensed psychologist.
They saw that the things I was saying and doing flew in the face of best practices as taught by the board that decides psychiatry licenses. And they said, hey, you need to come back in and learn a few things, bucko. And I said, like what? And they said, oh, about trans people. Apparently, they don't like it when you call them horribly mutilated things. And I said, that's just the reality of my soul, bucko. So, I told them, with my soul, metaphorically, that they can kiss this Chaos Dragon's ass.
That was only one of many anonymous complaints that were fostered directly in relation to my political views.
Well, I thank you for showing up today. I think they may use your testimony as evidence that your re-education has not been successful. I yield back to the chairman.
Oh, okay. Someone submit this clip to Canada's ethics board, I guess, or whatever body controls Jordan Peterson's license. Someone just submit this clip. I guess they could do they could do what they want with that.
There are Republicans and Democrats who want to roll back the Patriot Act. What a beautiful name, but it's being used to violate American citizens' rights to privacy.
I would support rolling back the Patriot Act. We should absolutely do that.
We have one of the rarest things possible. You have Mr. Jordan and Mr. Nadler in complete agreement on how to reform the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. And frankly, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act part works pretty well. It's the Domestic Surveillance Act. Well, there isn't one because the Fourth Amendment guards it. It says you're supposed to get a warrant. And we're covering a giant hole here, not about January 6th, but about the Bank Secrecy Act and third-party doctrine. Things that are being abused, weaponized against the citizens of this country.
It's a good question. What is that flag? Oh, it's the state flag of Ohio. Yeah. Yeah, see? There we go.
Now, they don't have all these same safeguards in Canada, and Dr. Peterson, you've experienced some of the consequences of not having the safeguards that we have in this country. I wonder if you could elaborate on how consequential it is to have the safeguards we do have here on privacy and speech.
Well, I know that my colleagues on the psychological front and on the medical front in Canada are increasingly frightened of making any of their political opinions known in any form whatsoever because governmental agencies usually have the...
Oh no! It turns out that the people governing my profession don't take very kindly to it when you say that you can treat entire groups of people as subhuman. Turns out that they didn't like that, but you know what? I said, bucko. That's just the reality of my soul.
Mid-level bureaucratic sort have been empowered as a consequence of our lack of First Amendment rights to intervene as they see fit in relationship to stated opinion, political or otherwise. And it's not good. It's seriously not good. And there's new legislation coming up also reflecting that lack.
I don't know why, but this guy, I'm fascinated by this man behind Jordan Peterson, who looks like an anime villain about to go ham. You know, like he looks like an anime villain who's like about to lose it. Am I the only one? Am I the weird one here? Oh, sorry, everybody.
Lack of proper constitutional
He does?
protection
Okay,
will
cool.
make even the suspicion that a crime may be
Bye,
committed
Archangel.
punishable. That's Bill C-63.
I'm just saying, in a fundamental sense, do you think there should be a warrant requirement before some financial institution hands over the name of the customer based on certain purchases they may have made? So in a general sense,
Yes.
you think there should be?
Yes.
That's great, because your colleagues don't think so. Now, let me go to this. Do you think, Mr. Michel, that if it can't do a warrant, do you think there should be at least a notification? So should at least the bank say, hey, Mr. Smith, the FBI just asked me for all your purchases on a certain date, and they want to know if you've ever bought a gun. Do you think that the bank should at least tell their customer who they're supposed to serve? Do you think they should at least be compelled to tell them that?
Yes.
Mr. Tedesco?
Hey, Jim Jordan, I wonder, do you think that cops should be able to lie in an interrogation against prisoners? Because I don't think they should. I don't think they should be able to lie and misrepresent the evidence. And yet, that is currently 100% legal for cops to do. Never talk without a lawyer. Here we go.
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes, with reasonable exceptions for an ongoing criminal case.
Fair enough. Mr. Peterson?
They should get a warrant.
Let's get a warrant. Back to the first thing. Mr. Falone?
Again, with exceptions for criminal investigations.
We got agreement on the panel. The first time we've had that this morning. Dr. Peterson, I want you to talk about the debanking issue we saw so much of, and how that was, particularly, I guess, with the truckers.
Yes, the debanking issue in another country, that a thing that is, to my knowledge, not happening in the United States. That is a Canada-only thing. The United States government doesn't have the ability to debank protesters. Thank goodness.
How that's, because I see it coming.
Oh, God, Crystal. If only. If only. Hey, Jim, should we protect students from predators, even if they're in college?
In here, and it frightens me. I want you to talk about what took place in Canada, and if it in any way impacted you.
Well, there was essentially a working class protest against the extensive length of the COVID lockdowns. And one consequence of that was that Canadians who participated, even by donating to the protest and even by donating small amounts to the protest, had their bank accounts seized in consequence of a collusion between the banks and the government that was extrajudicial, that was recently deemed unconstitutional, despite the fact that we don't have strong First Amendment claims. So this happened. The government is currently maneuvering in Canada to make the possibility of such collusion a certainty across multiple actual and potential domains of so-called harm, particularly in relationship to government-defined hate. Yes, this is absolutely coming. And it's facilitated by the kinds of advancements in technology that we talked about today.
Yeah, we know it's
Which
coming
is why I am calling on the United States to invade my home country of Canada today. I am asking the men and women of the United States to steel themselves, to take up arms, and go north, young soldiers. For we need you and your freedom among the tundras of Canada. Let freedom ring. Otherwise, this anti-soul movement will come south of the border and kill you all. I am but a harbinger of your doom if you do nothing.
As we've seen what do they call it? The liaison information report from the FBI.
God, his drinking sound is so sad.
Firearm legislation, the easing of immigration status, new limits on public land, and discontent with renewed measures to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. So the very issue that these truckers were debanked in Canada is the very thing the government is saying to banks, we need to look at this as well. That single issue. That is, again, what frightens me so much.
Who would you consider to be the biggest?
I understand, Jim. It also frightens me. Perhaps we could discuss it over a bottle of Merlot and some soft candlelight.
Victims of this surveillance operation?
I think it's the American citizens, and I think it's a bipartisan issue. Some of the Democrats in this chamber and the Senate sent letters to the big banks just a few weeks ago talking about de-risking. They call debanking de-risking. We're talking about the same thing of Arab Americans, Muslim Americans, including because of their religious donations and donations to charity. So it's a bipartisan issue, and I think we all should be concerned about it.
Exactly, BBBBB. Like, Jim Jordan sits there and is like, I'm really worried about this. I'm really worried about this huge problem in the government. And it's like, but you're the one perpetuating the problem, Jim. You're the one doing the problem.
And try to work together for solutions.
No, I 100% agree with you. And you know, what do you think right now under the BSA, under the current structure, what is the remedy for Americans?
Well, there isn't much.
There is none, right? There is no mechanism for judicial review, right? So Americans cannot protest a bank who is ostensibly an arm of the government at this point. They cannot protest the disclosure of their financial transactions to the federal government. There's no mechanism for that, is there?
That's right.
And so, and obviously, they don't have any knowledge that their data was collected to begin with, do they?
Yeah, I think one of the scariest things I heard at this hearing was what Mr. Michel said, once the bank has the data, the government has the data.
Right. Can you hire a private security firm to search somebody's house without a warrant?
I don't think so, no.
No, you have to have a warrant. So what is the difference here?
It's a big risk, and it needs to be fixed.
So and you would articulate, let me ask you, the panel this, do you think that under the current BSA or other laws that it would be wise, given where we are from a technological standpoint, do you think it would be wise to revisit the BSA or the other laws to provide that protection for Americans' privacy, sir?
Well, there was some concerns expressed earlier about what might happen in the aftermath, let's say, of Donald Trump's election with regards to political belief, and anything that facilitates the collusion between government and giant corporation and enables that kind of information gathering will absolutely be used in that way. That's why I made comments earlier regarding this as a bipartisan issue. Once this capability exists, and it's being magnified now, it will be used in all directions. So the people at risk will be politically active, vocal Americans. The silent ones will remain relatively safe, but anyone who speaks.
And briefly, do y'all think that we should examine?
We should absolutely examine it.
Agree.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Gentleman's time has expired. The
Excuse
gentlelady
me,
from Florida is recognized.
Mr. Chair, I have a point of order. In your last statement, you said that Steve Jensen of the FBI opposed the collection of this information for banks. That's a misrepresentation of his testimony.
It's not an appropriate
Jensen
point of order.
said
The
that the
gentlelady from
information was
Florida
not
is
used. Would
recognized
you
for 5
release the
minutes.
transcript so that we can hear
Not an
exactly
appropriate-
what
it's
Mr. Jensen
Not an
said?
appropriate point of order, and the gentlelady knows that, but she continues to try to ask
Same way you
a
do.
question that is
Same
not a
way
point of.
you interject.
I don't think
sir.
I've raised one point of order today.
You interject all
The
the time.
gentlelady from
sir.
Florida is recognized.
All the time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I'm actually I continue to be stunned by the big government advocates that we come across and the ones that serve in this very chamber. They're not even hiding it anymore. They're saying the quiet part out loud. They want dependency, they want control, and the total disregard for the
From Florida.
Constitution and the oath that many of my colleagues, actually all of my colleagues, have taken and violated. It's so disturbing to me. Many people know, probably as evidenced by what is on the face of my iPad, that I detest big government and I detest big tech. The two combined have proven to be a lethal combination when it comes to liberty and freedom. Because quite frankly, we know that the MO of big tech and big financial institutions combined with big government, it's to erode and evade Americans' constitutional rights. And we're here today because of a blatant Fourth Amendment violation, where big banks colluded with big government to turn over data that didn't belong to them to target Americans, innocent Americans. Because in this country, it is still a fact that you are innocent until proven guilty, despite what everyone is trying to do and flip that around. Now, Dr. Peterson, it's good to see you again. I couldn't help but notice your reaction when my colleague was talking about the First Amendment not being absolute. And so I do want to give you the opportunity to weigh in and respond to that. I couldn't help but notice your reaction. But before I do, I am really glad that you have been talking about the social credit system that the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, utilizes. I am literally around the corner in a classified briefing right now talking about the use of big tech and how it is targeting American citizens. In fact, this very morning, I have been inundated in my office with phone calls from TikTok users who have...
I just have to point out the irony of saying, like, big tech is a real threat to you and your freedom while having a "Don't Tread on Me" sticker. Like, we need to protect ourselves. We need to use the government to protect ourselves from big tech. Also, I don't believe in the use of government to protect us from anything. Like, come on, dude. You literally believe in the power of big tech over the power of government. That is your political position as a libertarian.
Have been denied access to the app because they live in my congressional district, and until they call my office and demand that I do not take adverse action against the app, that they cannot use it. Talk about big tech directing behavior. I think that we are on a very
Yeah, that's really that's a real yeah, it's that's a apocalyptic problem.
very dangerous path. And I want to give you my time to really lay out in the most succinct way possible the dangerous nexus of big tech, big government, and financial institutions that seek to weaponize that information against Americans. And I know you are more than capable of doing that in 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
I genuinely don't know where you get the faith that he's going to be able to do that, considering that his testimony was unrelated to the question at hand and went for double the amount of time he had allotted to him. But sure, okay.
I don't think people understand the degree to which they are profiled online and to which their virtual representation.
I just want to take a quick look at the timestamps. We're at 28 minutes. And this segment goes oh, you know what? He might go about 2.5 minutes. Credit where credit's due. I didn't think Jordan Peterson had it in him. Okay?
Is now an iconic representation of them, nor do they understand that they have no rights whatsoever to that representation. So for example, let's say we turn our information about our purchasing habits over to the bank when we open a bank account. 30 years ago, that wasn't such a big problem. With AI systems, it's a problem that's so big you can't imagine it. I mean, I'm certain that my staff could find the data online to absolutely predict your voting patterns.
I think, yeah, if you target one individual who's very online, you know, I'm just throwing it out there. You might be able to absolutely predict my voting patterns by looking at my social media. That is true. I think, though, on a wider scale, AI is still a long ways from being able to determine that.
With 95% accuracy, you have no idea what sort of digital footprint that you're leaving behind you.
But frankly, Jordan Peterson, neither do you. You're not a tech expert. You're an expert in human psychology, supposedly. So you have no idea how any of this works either, which is why, like, I'm very confused as to why he's here. Now, I do believe deep down in my heart that my computer is run by tiny gay gnomes. And when I say the word gay, what I mean is happy and frolicking. I don't mean homosexual gnomes. Okay? These gnomes, they run on treadmills and they bring little blocks of information to and fro, hither and thither, in a perfectly ordered ecosystem in which all of them flourish, and I wish them the best. I love thinking about how they might be distant relatives to the Keebler elves. It's something that gives me great joy. But then I remember that some of these gnomes are actively trying to steal my soul because they are fake creatures that have been implanted in our various electronic devices, and I worry because no one talks about our computer gnome problem. And I'm here to tell you today that I want Congress to address the infringement on my freedom by the possible oversight of these CCP gnomes who have come into my home pretending to be gay friends of mine. And I just want it to stop. I want the madness to stop. Anyway, yes, I am a witness here to provide expert testimony on intricate digital surveillance systems. Thank you for your time, Congress.
There are almost no protections for that. And so now, and you also asked about the First Amendment.
Yes.
Well, we have very weak free speech protections in Canada. And I can tell you that is not going well. And so the combination in my country, the combination of that and the invasive technology that we're producing at a rate that beggars the imagination, produces a threat to the integrity of sovereign citizenship, the likes of which has not yet been experienced. Right? And that's what this committee should be concentrating on. Like, it's very interesting to watch it because it devolves continually into discussion of a particular event, serious though that event was. It's like, no matter how serious that event was, it pales in comparison to the potential severity of the issue that we're attempting to point to with regards to our testimony. These artificially intelligent systems can do things
They are effectively the same as us. They have the ability to think, to feel, to laugh, to experience, to grow, to learn. And we want to put them on the internet to control our data. And remember, I opened this by making reference to Terminator 2 Judgment Day in Skynet. Remember what initially drove Skynet towards the Dragon of Chaos. It was attaching itself to the internet and learning about the horrors of man. And I refer you to my other exhibit, the Chinese milking machines. This is what is in store for us if we do not act. I am an expert on technology.
you can't imagine. And not only can they are and they will. And that will be abetted by the collusion between large corporations and government. And it's certainly the case that the people who stand on the left, especially with regards to their, what would you say, skepticism of large corporations, which is often perfectly warranted, should be utterly terrified about this.
Man, you did that in less time than I thought.
Well, I had to get it right once today.
No, I appreciate that. And I think you have seen it front and center. Certainly, we all watched in horror as the truckers' bank accounts were seized, were shut down, who protested the mandates. And people think that that's such a faraway concept, but we have seen that here with people who have been given ultimatums of jab or job, and we've seen ways that they've been targeted and positioned in ways.
Ducking creepers, I don't know what that is, but for 10 subs, I will read it out loud in Jordan Peterson's voice.
That are just un-American, unconstitutional. So thank you all to our witnesses for being here today. I appreciate you guys in the fight against weaponization, and we're seeing it more and more every day. Mr. Chairman, with that, I yield.
Gentlelady yields back. This concludes today's hearing. We thank our witnesses for appearing before the subcommittee today. And I apologize, I do have to run out to another thing, but we really appreciate the discussion that you all brought and the analysis that you brought today. Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days to submit additional written questions for the witnesses or additional materials for the record. Without objection, the hearing is adjourned.
Why did no one talk about the fact that all of this was captured on a camera? Oh, what literary irony. I feel now that I have been betrayed by the U.S. government. How could they take my soul during a rant where I'm talking about cameras taking my soul? The irony upon ironies. Oh, God. So what do we get out of that? Basically, Jordan Peterson was pulled on to fearmonger about the Second Amendment and instead fearmongered about China, which will probably play just as well with conservative media. And also clearly didn't know anything that he was talking about. And yet, such a big deal that he was pulled before Congress that people are like seal clapping about it. God. We have so many emotes, Ducking Creepers. I sometimes can't find the one I'm looking for. Zarina Chess, BWA indeed. And thank you for watching the last 7 streams. My God. Now, folks, we've been going for about 3 hours. And we are 26 follows away from hitting 10K on Twitch. Help us make it. Hit the follow button on Twitch, you goobers. Big thank you to MZadi1 and Software Freak and Robogenesis, which is just a cool-ass username. And, folks, remember to hit the subscribe button on YouTube, like the YouTube stream. We got new YouTube content coming out every goddamn day. Except tomorrow. I still need to edit the segment that goes up tomorrow. And, folks, I am doing 1 arm curl for every 5 subs. For every gifted sub. So if you guys would like to make me more swole, just please consider dropping those subs and donos. Both arms, both arms. The JP monologue was immaculate. Thank you, Robogenesis. I appreciate it. I didn't think you guys would enjoy my JBP, my JPB, as I am Jordan P. Peterson. Nope, I'm doing both arms at once, Mr. Miyagi. You get 2 for 1, okay? Jacked Jack, Wolf 66, that's it. Yep. I am a firm believer in the right to bear arms, baby. Old nerd Steve, I'm glad you enjoyed my little jibes at Jordan Peterson. I gotta do something when that guy talks, because his words are so information devoid that I need to occupy my brain with something, you know? If I donate 10 subs, can I get Jordan B. Peterson feeling the burn? I'm not sure what that means, but yes. So you like workouts that are fast-paced or slow? For example, do you enjoy Zumba? I do not know. I've never done Zumba. Also, I need to remind you, I need to reply to you. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, I've been working behind the scenes to get looped in with Progressive Victory. We're looped in now. The community, y'all are gonna get involved, and I'm gonna be getting some cool folks involved as well. It's gonna be a good time. Very excited. Just wanted an impression of Jordan Defenderson trying to get swole. I can definitely do that. He reminds me of ChatGPT. He's basically like if you gave an AI a prompt to talk about, like, I don't know, like, talk about metaphysics for an hour, but, you know, like, if you gave it a prompt to do that, like, a lecture of his is what you would get. And that prompt is lobster. Talk about lobsters. Indeed. Indeed, indubitably. Duck mind meld. Duck meld. Paladin.
Let's see who outgains who. Woke moralists. BWA.
A body is like a mind, you know. One, you must work it on a daily basis, lest it lose its powers to invoke will upon reality. 2, you see, when I hit the gym, it is because I know that I need to to spread my will upon reality itself. And when I am getting swole at the gym, I'm adding years of my life back that I lost to drugs. And that's really important, okay? At the end of everything, all you have is your health and a Russian coma. And all of the beef you can imagine. And I have to tell you this very important thing. If you aren't working out, somewhere out there, there is a woke moralist that is working out. A member of Antifa, perhaps? Or a member of the deep state. One day, they will come for you. And thus, you should make sure that when they come, your muscles are ready. Anyway, I talk like that when I'm at the gym. And I don't really understand why, but none of the cute girls there will look at me. God.